All right, good morning, people here and people online. So before we start, let's generate the correct motivation. No problem. Gravity. So, Kasa. So generate correct motivation. Before we start, to take the essence out of this precious human rebirth, as that is the topic of today, for a particular purpose, in order to really develop your mind, because so many beings are just wandering around in samsara and just don't have any connection. So it's our responsibility to do something for them, and that's why we have to take the essence, so generate the correct motivation for yourself. And then in front, in the center, imagine Sakyamuni Buddha, right? And then on Sakyamuni Buddha's right, there's Maitreya and a group of the masters of the lineage of the method, like Asanga, Bhadra, and the other masters. And then below that are the three groups of the Kadam, those of the Lam-Rim, those of the scriptures, and those of the instructions. So there's three groups there, and then below that is Lam-Tsongkhapa with the lineage masters of the Geluk. And then on Sakyamuni Buddha's left, there's Manjushri, and then together with the masters of wisdom, so there's Arinakajuna, Buddha Palita, Bhavavika, Chandakirti, and others. Below that, the same three groups of the Kadam, of those of the Lam-Rim, those of the scriptures, and those of the pit instructions. And below that, Lam-Tsongkhapa, with the masters of the Geluk, right? So that's on the right and left. And then behind the Buddha, or slightly above behind, the lineages of, Gusamaja, Heruka, Yamataka, Mahamudra, and 16 drops, in one above each other, not in groups, but one above each other, lineages. And then in front of Sakyamuni Buddha, there's one's principal teacher, you can imagine, in the aspect of Lam-Tsongkhapa, for example, and your other teachers. And then below that, the group of the Haisho Tantra, then Yoga Tantra, Charya, Kriya Tantra, and then the Buddhas, and then Bodhisattvas, and the Prajekas, Sravakas, and then Dagas, Dakinis, and Dharma protectors, So imagine that in front of yourself, or at least have the faith, the merit field is there, And then surrounding yourself, countless beings undergoing individual sufferings, the 6 realms, and they are just lost. They don't have heard the word of the Dharma, so it's our responsibility to lead them, and then we lead them in the prayers. Then when we recite the lineage gurus, also think light comes from those masters which just grouped in front to your crown. The crown of all beings, and lead all beings in that way to liberation and enlightenment, and recite the prayers. Page 45.
O Lama Tunpa Chumde De Jin Chek Padra Chomba Yandak Ba Sube Sangye Rikpa Dang Shak Sudemba Dewa Shekpa Jikten Kempa Kebudu E Kalo Gyura La Nameba La Dang Mi Nam Ki Tumba Sangye Chomde De Pelgyawa Zagya Tuba La Chatselo Chedu Gyapsu Chi Lon Tenpa Chum Den De Jin Chekpa Dra Chomba Yang Dakpa Zobe Sangye Rikpa Dak Saksu Tenpa Deva Shekpa Chikten Kenpa Kebe Duwe Kalo Gyura Lana Mepa Ladang Mi Nam Ki Tenpa Sangye Chom Den De Pagyawa Kya Tu Pala Chak Tselo Chedo Kyab Su Chi Om Tenpa Chom Den De De Jin Chek Patra Chom Bayan Dakpa Zobe Sangye Rikpa Dak Sap Su Tenpa Dewa Shekpa Chikten Kenpa Kebe Duwe Kalo Gyura Lana Mepa Ladang Mi Nam Ki Tenpa Sangye Chom Den De Gyawa Shakya Tu Pala Chak Tselo Chedo Kyab Su Chi Wo Gang Tse Kang Ni Tso Wo Ke Tam Che Sa Chen Di La Gun Po Du Po Nim Ga Ni Jik Ten Di Na Chok Che Sum De Se Ke Pa Ke La Chang Sel Nam Da Kun Nga Tso Tu Zuk Sang Wam Ye She Gya Tso Ser Ge Lun Po Dram Drak Pa Jik Ten Trum Lam Nam Me Vam Gun Po Chuk Ni Ke La Chak Sel Zen Cho Den Pa Dri Ma Da Ve Tem Te Do Dra Va Chuk Chak Sel Lo Du Dre Ke Da Zi Pa Su Ma Jim Nyam Me Kien Chen Ke La Chang Sel Gun Po Tu Che Che Dan Pam Tam Che Kien Pa Tem Pa Po Se Nam Yen Ten Gyat So Jing De Jin Chek La Chang Se Lo Da Pe De Cha Tra Var Gyut Geve Nang Song Le Dro Jing Chik Tu Den Tam Chuk Yor Pam Chik Yu Che La Chak Se Dre Ne Dre Ve Lam Yang Ten La Pa Dak La Rup Tu Ni Ting Gi Dam Pa Yen Ten Dem Ge Dun La Yang Chang Se Sang Ye Cho La Chang Se Long Kyo Pa Che La Chak Se Ge Dun Lang La Chang Se Lo Sum La Ta To Gu Chak Se Jak Cha Re Pa Tam Che Lam Ting Du Kun Gi Drang Ne Ki Lu Tu Pa Ye Nam Kun Tum Cho To De Pe Chang Se Dik Pa Chi Ye Chik Yang Mi Cha Ting Ge Va Pun Tum Tok Pa Chim Rang Gi Sem Ni Yong Su Dun Di Ni Sang Ye Ten Pa Yin Karma Ra Brim Mar Me Dang Gyu Ma Chil Pa Ju Bo Dang Mi Lam Lok Tang Dri Ta Bum Du Che Che Lam Di Ta Tam Se Nam Di Tam Che Tsik Pa Yin Go Pang Top Ne Kyung Yi Tra Tu Tim Ga Dang Na Dan Chi Ve Lap Truk Bi Si Pe Tso Le Dro Va Shu.
I prostrate Arya.
Triple Gem. Thus this I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on Mars of Fulchus mountain Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Levikateshvara looked upon the very practice, the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Levikateshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity, the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Levikateshvara said this to the venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity, the profound perfection of wisdom, should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factors and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristics, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not efficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visible form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and a mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata, Gata Gata, Paragata, Parasamgata, Bodhisattva. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration, commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aryalavikateshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice just as you've indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aryalavikateshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, human Asuras and Gadavas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoke by the Bhagavan. Gathering of the kiddies in the three chakras who abide in the holy yoga of using space by your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, who look after practitioners like a mother her child. Tayata, Om Gata Gata, Paragata, Parasamgata, Bodhisattva. By the teachings of the three supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed, may be dispelled, may be depacified. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. And may all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma. And may there be the auspiciousness and perfect happiness here, right now. I bow down to the useful Arya Manjushri, you lions among humans, gone to freedom in the present, past, the future, in the worlds of 10 directions. To all of you with body, speech, and sincere mind, I bow down. With the energy of aspiration for the Bodhisattva way, with a sense of deep respect, and with as many bodies as atoms of the world, to all you Buddhas visualized as real, I bow down. On every atom are Buddhas, numberless as atoms, each amidst a host of bodhisattvas, and I am confident the sphere of all phenomena is entirely filled with Buddhas in this way. With infinite oceans of praise for you and oceans of sound from the aspects of my voice, I sing the breathtaking excellence of Buddhas and celebrate all of you gone to bliss. Beautiful flowers, regal garlands, sweet music, scented oils and parasols, sparkling lights and sublime incense, I offer to you victorious ones. Fine dress, fragrant perfumes, sandalwood powder heaped high as Mount Meru. All wondrous offerings in spectacular array, I offer to you victorious ones. With transcendent offerings, peerless the past, with profound admiration for all the Buddhas, with strength and conviction in the Bodhisattva way, I offer and bow down to all victorious ones. Every harmful action I have done with my body, speech, and mind, overwhelmed by attachment, anger, and confusion, all these I openly lay bare before you. I lift up my heart and rejoice in all positive potential of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in 10 directions, of solitary realizers, hearers still training and those beyond, and of all ordinary beings. You who are in the bright lights of worlds in 10 directions, who have attained a Buddha's omniscience through the stages of awakening, all you who are my guides, please turn the supreme wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly request you may actualize Paranirvana. Please stay with us for eons, numberless as atoms of the world, for the happiness and well-being of all wanderers in samsara. Whatever slight positive potential I may have created, by paying homage, offering and acknowledging my thoughts, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddhas stay and teach, I now dedicate all this for full awakening. O Palden Sava Lam-Rim Dai Ginchi Upameten Zunglam Kadrin Chempe Kone Jesuntim Kusun Tugin Gedrum Saldusum Dren Panya Mitum Panchom Dendim Gyan Sabdam Pajetsun Mi Pamgu Gilvet Kum Ten Pang Patog Misham Sange Jang Sem Sum La Sevadim Tam Ling Kebe Tugan Yigin Yem Ume Lam Ye Pag Pam Lam Dredim De Pesane Tun Panam Dredim Jik Den Ming Jesum La Selvadem Benjun Gotanek Yochogidim Zamelam Ginge Jan Dilvedim Lam Chen Chebim Tergyunam Namtim Drove Salang Sum La Selvadem Lam Cho Sechin Gente Seng Sanctam Gelve Men Kunzi Gosalim Dro Kunseve Jetsinge Vachen Drove Deben Som La Selvadem Jang Chun Tuglan Ngan Yeseling Pam Shing Ta Chempe Sin Marmitim Lam Sang Se Tum Parim Pochim Tan Pe Sok Shing Sum La Selvadem Mavadame Drencho Shagetom Gelve Ken Rab Du Jampe Yang Zameden Sik Pachok Ludrupsam Mave Tsogen Som La Selvadem Pang Pe Gong Pa Sen Se Davadram Dese Tuvo Rik Pe Ko Juk Chem Gyal Se Rik Pem Ko Jonim Pe Sam Rik Pe Wang Chuk Som La Selvadem Tendre Samom Jitin Chik Payim Xing ta chen pu se jin mar mi zim. Lam zang se jim chen pa rin po jim. Zam ling yang yu ni la se va de. Gampava, magnificent, powerful yogi, and Yursurpa, who had stable concentration on the profound, Takmapa, who upheld the whole collection of the Vinaya. To you, 3 lamps of the border region, I make a request. Namke Senge, who practiced with earnest effort, Namka Gyalpo, who was blessed by the holy ones, Senge Zangpo, who abandoned the 8 worldly concerns. To Gyalse Zangpo, I make a request. With bodhicitta, seeing all beings as his children, blessed and cared for by the exalted God, supreme spiritual friend guiding migratory beings in degenerate times, to Namka Gyaltsen I make a request. Potova, the conqueror's regent, Sharava, unequaled in discrimination, Chikava, who realized the advice of bodhicitta, through 3 fulfilled the hopes of beings, I make a request. Chilbupa, Bodhisattva, possessor of oral transmissions and insights, Lalung Wangchuk, supremely learned one, Gunpa Rinpoche, savior of all beings in the 3 realms, to you 3 great elders I make a request. Zangchenpa, who had a sweet scent of pure morality, Tsonava, master of 100,000 sections of Vinaya, Vendrapa, an ocean of Amitabha, to you 3 guides of migratory beings I make a request. Who realized fast the profound Dharma, who protected all the fortunate beings, who did noble deeds of the past teachings, glorious Guru, Chökyab Zangpo, at your feet I make request. To Trimbar, great powerful accomplished one, Sunu, who practiced perfect devotion to his spiritual friend, Yerkumpa, who trained his mind in a Mahayana path, to you 3 sons of the conquerors I make request. Sangyebön, treasure of marvelous qualities, Namka Gyalpo, who was blessed by the holy ones, Senge Zangpo, who abandoned the 8 worldly concerns, Gyaltse Zangpo, at your feet I make request. With bodhicitta, seeing all beings as his children, blessed and cared for by the exalted God, supreme spiritual friend guiding migratory beings in degenerate times, Namka Gyaltsen, at your feet I make request. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of non-objectifying compassion, Manjushri, master of stainless wisdom, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snow, Losang Drakpa, at your feet I make request. Jampal Gyatso, powerful accomplished practitioner, Khedrup Rinpoche, the son of expounders of the teachings, Basoja, holder of the treasury of ear-whispered instructions, to you 3 peerless gurus I make request. Chökyi Dorje, who attained the holy body of unification, Gyalwa and Saba, who achieved the actual 3 kayas, Sangye Yeshe, possessor of the oral transmission and insight doctrines, to you 3 great learned practitioners I make request. Losang Chökyi Gyaltsen, venerable holy of the banner of Dharma, Kunshok Gyaltsen, his heart son, Losang Yeshe, who clarified the noble path, to you 3 perfect pure gurus I make request. Ngavang Jampa, who spread Sakyamuni Buddha's teachings, Losang Nyandrak, his heart son, Yunten Taye, who possessed an ocean of views, to you 3 kind gurus I make request. Venerable Losang Yeshe, fine developer of the teachings, Losje Langpo, who completely liberated all migrating beings, Losang Jimpa, who excellently imparted the methods of the teachings, to you 3 incomparable gurus I make request. Guiding the 4 types of fortunate receptacles with the teachings of transmission and insight, stainless holder of both teachings and practice, peerless kind root guru, Gyatsen Tenzin, with great respect with my 3 doors I make a request. You have developed completely the mandala, understanding the teachings as only practice. Your practice of the 2 stages of highest tantra manifest in the gentlest of mandala creatures. Like the moon, you eliminate all darkness for your fortunate disciples. Tenzin Khedrup, at your feet I make request. Kindest emanated holy body, encompassing all refuges of the 3 times without exception. Learned one, whose speech taught the excellent sayings of Losang Jampel, whose ocean-like mind had the spontaneous wisdom of the 3 higher trainings and cause and result, to Dakpa Losang Jampel Lundrup I make request. Endowed with love, morality, Arya jewels, and the rest, your excellent mental continuum holding the instructions of the conqueror's teachings, wearing the robes of all four fast activities, to the all-pervading perfect pure Guru Jampa Tenzin Trinle, I make request. Jewel treasure as the close lineage of the unified state. By attaining the unified state in this very life, you liberate the fortunate. You who show the path that is unified state, Ngawang Gendunla, I request you please bestow the simultaneous transcendental wisdom. With great admiration for your perseverance in generating within your mind the entire method of the Conqueror Losang Sutra and Tantra teachings, venerable kind and skillful holder of the banner of Buddha's teachings, I make request at the holy feet of the glorious and magnificent Guru. Noble heart, with all the wisdom of the Conqueror, principal embodiment of all the stainless teachings of the Conquerors, protector emanated from the ocean of the infinite mandalas, to you, kind Guru, Ngawang Losang Tenzin Gyatso, I make a request. With your strong shoulders of learning and practice, you patiently establish in all directions the stainer banner of the Muni's teachings, especially the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa. I make request to you, Tupten Zopa. Eyes to view all the fast teachings, supreme gateway to liberation for the fortunate, using skillful means to lovingly subdue, to eliminating spiritual friends, I make a request. May I not arise heresy even for a second about the actions of the glorious Guru. May I regard whatever actions are done as pure. With this devotion, may I receive the Guru's blessings in my heart. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to my Guru is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon my Guru with great respect. Please bless me to rely upon my Guru with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate a mind that unceasingly, day and night, takes its essence. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly, day and night, takes its essence. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Seeking samsaric pleasures is a door towards suffering. They are uncertain, cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Let by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping the Pratimaksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother migratory beings. Please bless me to see this, train a supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. Please bless me to see this, train a supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta, but I don't practice the three types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I've pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding as special insight. Please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. Having become a pure vessel by training in the general path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. Please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping pure vows and samayam. As I become firmly convinced of this, Please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Then, having realized the importance of the two stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the Gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. In all my lives, never separated from perfect Gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the stages of path, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Sachi Pekim Jung Shimetung Tramri Rablinchim Nidegen Padi Sangen Jingdum Bete Vai Drokunam Dang Singlam Chepan Sho Jatsun Lamam Dampai Kenam Kinchekukalam Kientenchu Zintring Jintan Sapim Dunje Zimalam Samgeche Kincharpam Vam Tusulidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami
Sangye
Chudang Chuki Chognam Lan Chanchu Badu Dakni Kyab Suchi Dagi Chunyan Gibesa Namki Drola Penche Sangye Droba Sho
Sangye
Chudang Chuki Chognam Lan Chanchu Badu Dakni Kyab Suchi Dagi Chunyan Gibesa Namki Drola Penche Sangye Droba Sho
Sangye
Chudang Choki Chognam Lan Chanchu Badu Dani Gyatsuchi Dagi Chenyen Gibesa Namki Drola Panche Sangye Drobar Sho
Yeah, so Lama says, having realized this body of freedoms and endowments is found but once, difficult to obtain and is easily lost. Please bestow blessing to take the essence or the meaning out of it and not be distracted by the affairs of this life, more or less. That's can translate like that. Yeah, so there it says, having found this body of freedom and endowments, which is kasa, found just once. Yeah, so that refers to the difficulty of obtaining it. And then also it's easily lost, refers to the impermanent or the short period of it. and difficult to find. Yeah, so we always talk about various aspects of the precious human rebirth. Also, we just read in the Foundation of All Qualities, understanding precious freedom of the rebirth is found only once. Also there it says, only once. In the lines of experience by Lama Tsongkhapa is like lightning, it says, very short, brief period of time. Because if you think in world evolutions, to have found the conditions we have right now, is like that. If you think about billions and billions of years, just to have one lifetime of, 60 or 80 years is nothing, So it's like lightning compared to the world evolutions, right? So it says here, understanding the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, same in Lama Tsongkhapa. And then in the lines of experience, like lightning, it says that's short. It's greatly meaningful, because there's great meaning, as we're going to see, as you already know, and it's very difficult to obtain. Yeah. So that's a few things you normally contemplate, right? You contemplate the freedoms and endowments, and then you contemplate the great meaning, and then the aspect of how difficult it is to obtain it. Yeah, you combine those things together. So yeah, and then actually taking the essence starts. Yeah, so normally we have an external condition of the virtuous friend, and we have the internal condition of Buddha potential and the precious human rebirth, and then based on that is taking the essence, right? So based then on that, you take the essence out of this life, or after the Lam-Rim. Yeah. So then the precious human rebirth, as we know, most of you have already know everything, I suppose, inside out of the Lam-Rim. But yeah, the freedoms and endowments, as we go over. So there are those related with humans and non-humans, and there's a different sequence. And then there's an overlap, if you study well, between freedoms and endowments, because the 8 freedoms, their scriptural reference is Nagarjuna's letter for a friend, right? That's always been quoted, yeah. And the endowments comes from Asanga Sravaka Bhumi, right? The hearer grounds. Yeah, so there's 2 different sources for the freedoms and endowments, and that's why there's a slight overlap, yeah, between the 2. Yeah, so that's you can debate back and forth, but yeah, let's just go over the first 4 freedoms. Also, there's a different sequence. Yeah, if you look into Nagarjuna's, it's very interesting. In the letter for a friend, he starts with a wrong view, and then the lower realms, and then the God's realms, and then the other freedoms. Yeah, so that's one particular sequence. It was very interesting, because the wrong view is just a very difficult one. Yeah. So let's first have a look at the other points. So there's also a different sequence. Sometimes at Lam-Rim, they first go into the non-human aspects and then into the human aspect. So if you do that aspect, it follows better, right? If you go for non-human, and then, okay, I'm free of that. Then in the humans, I'm free of this and this and this. So there's a more sequence there. So different Lam-Rims have different... that sequence is slightly either reversed or kept in that way. Anyway, that's just a detail. Yeah, so if you start with that sequence, if you're born into the lowest stages of existence, then there is no freedom, right, to practice the Dharma. Yeah, so that's kind of, first we have to have a conviction into the lowest state of existence. That comes actually later in the Lam-Rim, right? But if you do that and then you go back to this point, then it makes more sense, yeah. So yeah, not born as an animal, so first we have to realize the possibility of being born as an animal, otherwise this point doesn't make sense, yeah. So past and future lifetimes and rebirth in cyclic existence are very essential aspects of the Lam-Rim and the Buddhist teaching. Yeah. So we went over rebirth many times in the courses, but yeah, the conviction might not be completely there. So that's kind of an aspect to look upon, that there is a possibility of rebirth in different states. So we say, maybe not, but we don't know the reasons behind that. That's the thing, if you just think, yeah, maybe not possible, maybe always been human, but you don't have any reasons for that, right? If you just look at animals and you see their afflictions are very, very similar, very similar. Yeah, that the way they have attachment, the way they have anger, or compassion, things like that, exactly the same mental factors, right? Yeah. So that's kind of an aspect we have to work on in order to go to this point, right? So even if you think you've always been human and you believe in reincarnation, then you just have to go back, 40,000 years or something like that. Then you think, 40,000 years. But, we talk about evolutions of billions of years, right? So then a few 10,000 years is nothing. Yeah? So if you go back 10, 15, 40,000 years, then the humans were not like as we look now, right? So if you've always been human, then 40,000 years down the line, there were no humans as we know now, And it's just because of our habituation pattern, we think, always be human. But so the thing is that we just don't know the reasons, and we don't have clairvoyance, and we don't see that, So that's kind of people with clairvoyance, including the Buddha, including Nagarjuna, was the greatest philosophers, Nagarjuna doesn't have any reason to lie, and the Buddha also doesn't have any reason to lie, And Nagarjuna his view of reality is exactly according to what we see in modern physics, right, in quantum mechanics. Very interesting. So a person with that kind of sharpness of the mind still talks about hell beings and spirits and animal realms and things like that, And he's checking, and that's been written in text also, that he has this incredible, understanding of the Buddhist teaching, and then prove the Buddhist teaching by the reasons and logic, right? So until we have clairvoyance, it's very difficult. I've mentioned many times, if you get clairvoyance, then these things become much easier, because you just see, right? If you have clairvoyance over lifetimes, then you see, Like I mentioned many times, the video of Mahaboa, this great master of the Thai forest tradition, who saw by the power of his clairvoyance many of his own lives, and then after he focused on the life of others, and he saw the correlation between lifetimes and where they were reborn, So that's kind of very interesting. And he doesn't have any reason to lie about that, So then you see, we just think in one way, and they see things, right? The way we think is not based on reasoning, is just what we think. But there's no reasoning behind it. There's no valid aspect. Yeah? In the Buddhism, we always say something exists or does not exist, and what are the reasons for it to exist, and what are the reasons for not to exist, and then we accept one of the two. Yeah? So that's kind of an aspect. But if you just think of as humans, and you're born in 40,000 years ago, then there were no humans like us, right? And we just so habituated to this form we have. And then everything else, that looks strange, that's not possible. But if you have people from other planets who one day visit Earth, and they think, those Earthlings, they look crazy, they look very, very scary, with their eyes inside and things like that. They might have completely different bodies, So it's very subjective. Same for us. When we see the animal planet and we see all these creatures and we have seen them before, it's okay. But if there's a new creature being found, and that looks strange, it's just a habituation pattern, nothing else. There's nothing to do with reality. You see, that's the thing. So if you contemplate the continuity of consciousness, and you contemplate the possibility of being have different forms, because if you go back 40,000 years ago, then you were ape-like or something like that. If you think that's possible, then a complete ape-like being is possible, right? Or you go back in time, that people just, very uneducated and just didn't have a proper language and just fighting each other. It's very animal-like, right? So if that's possible, then maybe it's possible to be ape-like, and then maybe it's possible to be animal-like, right? Or, and that's another thing we don't have much experience with, because we lack concentration and absorption, especially the more advanced levels of absorption. So only mind beings, like spirits or gods, for us also very difficult to relate to, because we're always stuck in this body and we identify ourselves with the body, but because we're lacking the experience of meditative absorptions. Once you get the experience of meditative absorptions, then these things probably makes much more sense. Because then you see there's only mind and you don't identify yourself with the body anymore, right? So you identify yourself completely with the subtle consciousness, and then you think, okay, if you then generate an attachment or kind of desire to have this always blissful feeling, then of course you can be born in the God realms, right? So there's just because we're lacking the clairvoyance and we're lacking the experience, and we just grasp to our habituation patterns and think that's the reality, right? But that's maybe not the case, So that's kind of a thing we have to challenge, in order to move towards these points and to move to other points in the Lam-Rim. The human bodies we have at the moment is extremely temporary. It's just 40, 50, maybe 1,000 years, and that's it. Yeah, then the human, the bodies will degenerate, and the lifespan will be shorter. And then, of course, the bodies will be shorter, and then, that comes to an end, and things like that. Also in previous states of existence, humans on the planet looked completely different, more subtle bodies. You study like billions and billions of years ago. So you can see that the humans, as for now, at this particular period, which is just a few 10,000 years, is just very temporary, right? Yeah. So that means that if you believe in the continuity of consciousness beyond this life, then why not in different forms, right? That's kind of, if you go back, to the ape-like humans on the planet, if that's possible, then other things might be possible as well, right? It's just, we just think we are so in control of our minds, but it's not true. Because if you dream, you know what happens to you, right? There's no control in your dreams. That's very clear. So when you die, then there's not kind of, I'm going to be born there, or something like that. You can have that wish, but it just depends on the cause and effect. There is no I that is directing you, or there's no controller that is directing you, right? We know from the teachings on emptiness that there is no I directing us to another state of existence or guiding us or things like that. It's just the continuity of consciousness that continues, right? So if you think about those lines a lot, and then we use the reasoning of past and future lifetimes by consciousness can only produce by consciousness itself, right? Or you can look at the aspect of the near-death experience, that there's consciousness without a physical brain activity. The science behind is extremely clear, right? Or you look into the Tukdam, right? The clear-eyed mind of death meditations. As we went over a few times, I've seen quite a few of my own teachers in that state, that there's no decay of the body, but there's still consciousness there. Yeah, so that's very clear that there's consciousness without a physical brain. So then, when that consciousness then leaves the body, then decay starts, Or you look at Stevenson's research of children remembering previous lifetimes. Very interesting. Case studies of how habituation patterns carry on over lifetimes, Then the more you read that material and the more you contemplate, then slowly the conviction of, that's what we said, the fate of conviction, right, yesterday. So then that is really needed in past and future lifetimes, and the possibility to be born in other states. Otherwise, these meditations is just kind of dry words, right? So that's kind of very important to get convinced in the possibility of rebirth and to get convinced in the possibility of other states of existence, to be born there. Because our dreams we don't have control over. So when you die, you don't have control. And if we've been pre-human, kind of ape-like, and just look what they did with their life. If you look at gorillas or animals like that, and of course there are particular apes who are more compassionate, but also apes who are extremely aggressive. You know, like certain gorillas who just fight every time. Everybody else from another group, they just kill. You know, it's very. If you have done that, then you've been in worse situation, right? Yeah. So that's things to contemplate a little bit, because then you see the habituation patterns to negative things are extremely strong, and that makes it clear that it's very difficult once you're born in those states to get out. You know, so that's kind of important contemplations to see the possibility of the continuity of consciousness, and to see the possibility of being born in other states of existence, right? If you go back a certain amount of time, then if you establish the continuity of consciousness, because otherwise there's so many questions, right? Why do I have this habit, and why does another person has another habit, and you know. So first we have to establish the continuity of consciousness, and then we have to establish the possibility to be born in other states of existence, and then these meditations make more sense. You know, if you're not born as an animal and not born as, it starts with the health. We never did much with the health, but yeah, that's just difficult to relate to. But if you get some experience probably of consciousness in meditation, then you don't, what I said, you grasp less to the body, so then a consciousness-like being starts to make sense, right? So if you have a conscious-like being starts to make sense, then gods make sense and spirits make sense, right? Yeah. So we don't see spirits, we don't, but some people do, right? Yeah. So that's yeah. That means that we don't see them, so we think they don't exist. We don't see our back, but that exists, you know. It's very, sometimes we so grasp to things we know. We think we know things, right? But actually, it's just not based on reasoning. It's just habituation patterns of the past that makes us these kind of views, you know. So yeah, that's an important aspect. First, we maybe check the continuity of consciousness, right? That, you know, consciousness is not matter. And we saw that in the near-death experience, that there's perception, and in 80-something, 83 to 94%, what people experience in out-of-body experience during a near-death, you know, 84 to 93%, something like that. And that depends which research you depend upon, either Bruce Grayson or Pim van Dommen. Then that's valid. It's not just hallucination, or what people think. It's valid perception. Right. So if that's the case for a person who's dead, because the brain is dead, you know, there's no measurable brain activity, then that makes sense. There is consciousness there, possible without a physical brain, right? And then if you look at Stevenson's research of children remembering previous lifetimes, also there you see there's a continuity of consciousness, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's what he says. There is something that carries the information from a previous personality to the present. That's what he says. It doesn't say, this I call reincarnation, or I prove reincarnation. It doesn't say that. But the Buddhist interpretation is, okay, that is a continuity of consciousness, right? Yeah. So that's a very important aspect, and the more experience of consciousness you have, the more you see that it is not really physical. Yeah, that it's kind of non-material, although it has a relation with the physical brain, the coarser forms of consciousness. But the more subtler you go, there's less dependence. Yeah. So, and then with Stevenson research and things like that, we try to get because after this meditation is very important, because it comes up here, it comes up in this section. After death and impermanence, you know, so that's maybe important to contemplate. And then, if reincarnation is possible, then you go back to previous lifetimes, and you go back 40,000 years or so, and then the humans were completely different, right? They were like ape-like. If that's possible, then other states of existence, there is no reason why not, right? Yeah. So maybe we do a contemplation on that first, before we enter into the more traditional outline of the precision of rebirth, right? Yeah. Yeah, so before we start, so yeah, we do the meditation on that, and maybe we do twofold, right? First, we look at the continuity of consciousness, that our consciousness, is continuing. You cannot stop consciousness. When you go to sleep, you stop the sensory perceptions, but mental consciousness you can never stop, right? And so then you mental consciousness as a dream and things like that, so you can never stop consciousness, yeah. And then also see that every moment of consciousness is produced by a previous moment of consciousness. Yeah, nothing else can produce consciousness. If that's the case, then the previous moment is produced by its previous moment, and that's produced by its previous moment. So we cannot really find the beginning. Yeah, and that's a different concept, but yeah, if you look here in the sky at night, then you see stars, and then you think, where is the end of the universe? There is no end of the universe. Yeah, we always think in boundaries, but that's just our limited perceptions, because there are no boundaries in the universe, and there are no boundaries in the mind, right? Consciousness is there since beginner's lifetime. The concept is just difficult, but it seems to be the reality. If you really analyze the sky, the Big Bang is also not a Big Bang, it's a big bounce. Yeah, that also in matter, there's a beginningless time. That matter has always been there, in different forms, in different kind of relationships, of course, and different molecules and kind of different types of matter, or different kind of, combinations of particles. That, of course, is possible, but deep down below, the continuity of matter is beginningless, right? Yeah, so same with consciousness. So yeah, that's one part of the meditation, and then the second part of the meditation is then, okay, if that's the case, if our mind is there since beginner's lifetime, then just go down on this planet, because we're very short-sighted, so then we look at this planet, and even 40,000 years ago, or something like that, then people were ape-like, right? So if that's the case, and before that, there were other, more primitive creatures, so then if that's possible, then many types are possible, yeah, or have a subtle body like spirits or gods. If you really get, used to the subtle levels of consciousness, then that feels very comfortable, and you just want to be in that all the time, and then you create causes to be born as this consciousness-like beings, right? Like in the God realms, Yeah. So that's kind of aspects to explore before we do the next meditation. Yeah. So let's do that first. So before we do that, maybe starting of the day, we do the 9-round breathing, then the concentration meditation, and then analyzing this possibility of the continuity of consciousness and rebirth, and the possibility of being born in other states of existence, right? Yeah. So let's first do 9-round breathing, right? So block left in right, Hold second or two, block right out left. Second time. Then third time. Then change, index finger, block right in left. And block left out right. And second time. And third time. Then both nostrils right, first time. And second time. Third time. Yeah, so then sometimes it can happen if you just do this 9-hour breathing and just observe consciousness. You know? Sometimes you can get a glimpse. Sometimes you can get a glimpse. You know. All right, so then we move to the concentration meditation, right? That you count every in-breath as 1, out-breath as 2. Count from 1 to 10 and make sure you are active. Yeah, you have effort in your concentration, meaning alertness is present and mindfulness is present. As soon as you hear something or a thought pops up, you recognize that with alertness, and with mindfulness you bring your mind back to the counting of the breath, right? So let's do that for about a minute or two. Then when you have developed some concentration, then imagine from the field of merit in front, a duplicate of the Buddha appears just in front of yourself, about a body's length away, at the level of your eyebrows. Yeah, so try to imagine or visualize Guru Buddha in front of yourself with a throne and lotus, and on top of that is seated the Buddha in full lotus position and made out of light, three-dimensional. Yeah, so imagine the Buddha like that in front of yourself. And then surrounding yourself, countless beings on the going. Their individual sufferings of the lower realms and the upper realms, and just going back and forth between them. Just because they haven't understood the Lam-Rim, particularly they haven't have renunciation, bodhicitta, or emptiness, that's why they're just wandering around. So focus upon that and think it's your responsibility to do something about it, and request the Buddha in front for blessing and inspiration to first of all generate conviction in a reincarnation, and the possibility of rebirths. So make a request to the Buddha like that in front. And then white light comes from the heart of the Guru Buddha to your crown and all beings, and do the purification, pacification of obstacles for about half a minute or so. And I think you're completely filled with this white nectar light, And then with the same intention, make request again, and this time, the yellow golden nectar light comes from the heart of the Guru Buddha to your crown and all beings, and this bestows the potentials for the realization to come about, and also that we do for about half a minute or so. And then think you're completely filled with this golden yellow nectar light, right? So then first, is it possible for the continuity of consciousness to go beyond this life? So then we see that every moment of consciousness is preceded by a previous moment, right? Our present thought is caused by our previous. I say something, you think about something, then you go back to when you woke up this morning, and you go back to your dream, you go back to yesterday, and you can go back to a few years before, and then, there's basically no beginning to be found. The time of entering the womb of your mother, and then that continuity came from somewhere, right? And your interests in fields or topics or spirituality or your other interest is completely different than your parents and different than your siblings or your sisters, your brothers, So see, there is this continuity that produces itself moment after moment, and every moment is preceded by a previous moment, and that's preceded by its previous moment. So consciousness only produces itself, so you cannot really find a beginning, right? Yeah, so analyze if that's true or not. Yeah, for about a minute or so. And also you can never stop consciousness, right? You can stop sensory perception, but then you go into your dream, and then you wake up, and then things come again, right? So it's just no beginning and no end of the continuity of consciousness, right? It's a constant one moment after the other. Yeah, so analyze that also for about half a minute. And then there are people who remember their previous lives, right? That's very clear in Stevenson's research, for example, together with bird marks, very solid evidence. So, if that's the case, that in the previous personality they left the body behind, they were born, so that implies that between the previous body and the present body, the continuity of consciousness is continued, right? If that's the case, then there's no reason why not. There should be a life before their previous life. There's no reason why not there should be a life before that. There's no reason why not there should be a life for that, before that. So you cannot really find a beginning. There's no aspect that can produce consciousness at a particular time, or place or whatsoever. So you see that if one previous incarnation is possible, then there's no reason that prevents you from seeing there's a rebirth before that and a rebirth before that. So you cannot find there also a beginning, right? That you have countless rebirths got already, So also look at that for about half a minute. So then we see here a short conclusion of the previous moments of consciousness. There we cannot find a beginning of consciousness, and if you have one previous lifetime, then there should be one before that. There's no reason why not. And if that's the case, there should be one before that. If that's the case, there should be one before that. There's no reason why not. And then we see there's no beginning, right? So yeah, come to that conclusion and then focus on that for about half a minute. And then the future, if you look at the near-death experience, the evidence of that people have perception when they are clinically dead. So when they've been brought back to life, when the conditions are there to come back to life, they can talk about what they experienced, right? When the body was dead, when it was out of the body, more or less, out of the body experience. But if they don't come back to life, then what? That means their continuity continues, right? So same for us. When we die, then the continuity continues in the future, you see? There's no end. There's no beginning. If there's no reason why there's no rebirth before this, and there's no reason why not. If that's the case, there should be one before that, but in the future, exactly the same. Exactly the same, So also see that in the future there's no end, that the consciousness just produces rebirths again and again and again. So look at that also for about half a minute. And then go back in time, and that if your consciousness is produced by a previous moment, and that's caused by a previous moment, and that's caused by a previous rebirth, as we see in the science of children remembering previous lifetimes, then if that's the case, then there's no reason why not there should be a life before that. In exactly the same thing. If they were in the previous lifetime, they might have remembered their previous lifetime. If that's the case, then in their previous lifetime. So if that's the case, then you go back like quite some lifetimes ago, before the first humans were shaped, So then you might have been like ape-like. If that's the case, then you might have been like, more or less like an ape, or like a previous creature that existed on this planet. So look at that possibility of previous states of existence like that, because we've not always been human as we look now on this planet, right? Yeah. So analyze that possibility for yourself for about half a minute or so. Yeah. So see that it's possible to be born in more primitive kind of states, or animal-like states. Yeah, so see that possibility and then concentrate on that conclusion for about half a minute. Yeah, so then we can stop. Have a minute break or so, yeah. Yeah. So if that's possible, that insight is very important, right? Because if you have that insight, then all the topics of the Lam-Rim starts to make more sense. Without reincarnation, the Lam-Rim doesn't make any sense, right? So the more you have conviction in the possibility of reincarnation, in particular in other states of rebirth, then your renunciation becomes much more genuine, right? Mostly we see some suffering or we experience some suffering, think, oh, I don't want this is samsaric suffering, and then we think we have renunciation, but that's very artificial, you know. The real renunciation is based on the pervasive aspect of suffering, right, within all cycles. So the stronger your conviction is of that possibility, then you see it, you're just like going here and there. You know, there's no guide or controller that prevents you from those states. The more you see that aspect, the more you get this urge to like, oh, I really have to do something, not to be born there. You know, it's exactly what Lama Zopa Rinpoche said. If you really have that feeling and understanding, you won't sleep anymore. You know, it's really true. Then you see, same as Mahabodha, when he saw, you know, the different beings born in different states. He said, don't do this, don't engage in these negativities, because he directly saw from his own experience, right? And there's no reason to lie for the Buddha or for Arya Nagarjuna or for Mahabodha, you know. So then, if you have that aspect, then if you're born in an animal state, very difficult to do any virtue, first of all. You know, look at the cats. Here, they seem to have a very comfortable life, but the mind is always dull and just, you know, eat and sleep. You know, that's one of the better animals. But if you look at animals in the wild, you know, this constant killing others to fill the stomach, constantly. You know, so much violence, you know, all the time. Even insects, you know, you can see spiders killing constantly. So if you're in those kind of rebirths of the animals, or wild animals, you know, it's impossible to create causes for human existence, right? That's very important to see. And then it's impossible to do any virtue and any development. Yeah. So once you're born in those states, then unless you meet a holy being or a holy object, other than that, there's just almost no chance, you know. So that's kind of important aspect to see. That once you're born in an animal state, there's no way you can do any practice of virtue or forget the spiritual part, right? Yeah, so that's definitely true. Or in the spirit-like environment, that there's so much fear and fatigue, you know. They don't sleep for years, you know. So much fatigue and so much suffering. So the mind is always occupied with suffering. There's no time. Spirits are a bit more intelligent than animals. Animals are just dull and stupid, right? Most of them, in the way of related to the Dharma and understanding things like as we talk about. But spirits are a little bit more intelligent, but they're just so much occupied with suffering and fear that there's no way they can have peace of mind to do something with the Dharma. There's only very, very few who get a connection, you know. So, spirits, the hells, we didn't really talk much about, but then better maybe not to talk about too much. But if you just constantly, you know, being cut or being burned or you know, not just a little pain here and there and that goes away, no, without end, you know, then no way you can think about anything else than be separated. You know, same as we're very sick. Unless you're a great practitioner, the only thing that comes to mind, I don't want this, I want to be separate from this, I want to separate from this. Or your just mind is occupied by the pain or there's nothing compared to the hell realms, you know. So then, if you're born in one of those stages of animal spirits or hell being, then no way, too much suffering, you know, or stupidity. There's no capacity to do anything with Dharma or with spiritual part or just virtue, you know. And then if you're born as these long-living gods, then you're just blissing out all the time, you know. So in this subtle consciousness and there's kind of different absorptions, but it looks like liberation, and that's what many people mistake that, you know. That's so dangerous, because then they get really such a blissful mind, and then the coarse minds of the desire realm are not present, and they think, oh, now I've achieved liberation, you know? And then they get attached to that and be born in those God realms, and they think, oh, now I've achieved liberation. And that comes to an end, and then they see where they are reborn by the clairvoyance, and then they say, oh, liberation is not possible. And then they just fall back and end of that life, and then they circle around in lower states. So the long-living gods, same thing. There's too much bliss that there's no possibility of thinking about anything about Dharma. If the Buddha, you know, there's many stories that when they were born as humans, they were very devoted and like that to the Buddha and listen. And then one of the students was born in the God realms, and the Buddha passed by, didn't even look, you know, because he's just so proud in the meditation, you know, bliss. No interest in the Buddha anymore. So you can see, if you're born in those stages, then no development, right? It's just being occupied with the happiness, but not knowing that it comes to an end and that you then fall back, right? So then you can see, as humans, it's so fortunate to have all the right conditions. Yeah. So do a short contemplation on these points and see that we have the freedom of not being born as animal, as spirit or hell being or this long-living God, right? Yeah, and just contemplate like that. So first, check. As we saw in the previous meditation, there's a possibility to be born in other states of life, like animals, you know. If you're ape-like, then other possibilities are there. But if you're really born as an animal, then forget the Lam-Rim, right? Even virtue is very difficult. You know, to create courses to get out of there is almost impossible. Yeah, so contemplate that. We're very fortunate not to be born there. So, and then you can think about spirits, very confused, occupied by confusion and fatigue and suffering. You know, of the hungry spirits suffering. Hungry ghosts, you know, so there's also no way you can think about anything else. Same with the hell beings, there's no way to think only about the suffering. You know, so see that it's very difficult if you're born in those states, and then reflect that we're very fortunate not to be born in those states, that we have that freedom. Yeah, so analyze that for about a minute or so. Yeah, those 3 lower realms. And then on top of that also, we're not born in these kind of long-living gods. We think they have achieved a stable state and not interested in anything else than their temporary happiness, you know. So then they don't think about Dharma or accumulating courses for future existence. No. They're just absorbed in that state, right? So also if you're born in those states, then it's very difficult to create courses for progress in the Lam-Rim, right? Yeah, so analyze that also for about half a minute. come to an overall conclusion that sees that you're not born in either of those lower realms, nor in this God realm, so you have all the right conditions for the Lam-Rim, so we're not going to waste this opportunity. So come to that conclusion and then focus on that conclusion for about half a minute. And then make a determination or commitment for yourself not to engage in too many worldly activities, but now it's really time. Now you have the opportunity. Now it's really time to take the essence of this precious rebirth and not to waste it, before it's too late. And you don't have this opportunity anymore, right? So make a kind of strong determination for yourself to take the essence starting today, and then focus on that for about half a minute. Then to conclude, to request the Buddha in front to bestow blessings and inspirations, to have the potential to take the essence out of precious rebirth. So the Buddha is very pleased with your intention, and Guru Buddha comes to your crown, faces the same direction as you're facing, and then the throne dissolves the lotus. Buddha becomes smaller and descends to your crown, throat, and at the level of your heart dissolves into light, and the Buddha's mind merges with your own mind. So you can feel a little bit of sensation there at the level of the heart that your mind becomes one, the mind of Guru Buddha, right? Yeah. So then we dedicate Janjo Simjo Rinpoche, Magye Panang Gyuchi, Gyaba Nyamba Meba Yang Gone Gonda Belva, Tony Tawa Rinpoche, Magye Panang Gyuchi, Gyaba Nyamba Meba Yang Gone Gonda Belva. Okay, so then we have a break.